Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering your country had just doubled in size. Overnight. No war, no invasion, no conquest. Someone sold it to you for less than the cost of a single modern skyscraper. That sounds impossible, but in 1803, the United States did exactly that. One signature, one payment. And America instantly became twice as large. Here's what nobody tells you. The man selling it didn't want to sell. The man buying it wasn't even sure he was legally allowed to buy it. And the only reason any of this happened at all was a revolution on a tiny Caribbean island that killed 50,000 soldiers and shattered the dreams of the most powerful man on earth. If any single piece of this story had gone differently, the country you live in today might not exist. This is the Louisiana Purchase, the strangest, most fragile, most consequential real estate deal in human history. At the start of the 1800s, America looked almost nothing like it does today. Most people lived within 100 miles of the Atlantic coast. Beyond the Appalachian Mountains, the land opened up into something almost unimaginable. Millions of acres of rich farmland, rivers so wide you couldn't see across them, forests that stretched to the horizon in every direction. Settlers were already moving in, farming, building, raising families. But they had one problem. A single, enormous, suffocating problem. The Mississippi River. Every farmer west of the mountains depended on it. There was no other option. You grew your crops, loaded them onto flatboats, and floated them south, all the way down to one city, New Orleans. That port was the economic heart of the entire American interior. And America didn't own it. France did. Think about what that meant. If France decided to close that port tomorrow, entire states could collapse. Farmers would have no way to sell their crops. Towns would have no way to receive supplies. A foreign empire held the economic survival of the American frontier in the palm of its hand. The United States of America was being quietly strangled by geography. And in Europe, one man had just realized exactly how to use that to his advantage. His name was Napoleon Bonaparte, and he wasn't trying to build France's greatest colony. He was trying to build France's future, a permanent empire, unbreakable, self-sustaining, immune to the wars of Europe. And Louisiana was the key. The Louisiana Territory wasn't just today's state of Louisiana. It was everything. From the Gulf of Mexico all the way to Canada, across the Great Plains, over the Rocky Mountains. Roughly 2.1 million square kilometers. Almost 1/3 of the entire modern United States. Napoleon's vision was breathtaking in scale. A French empire in the Caribbean producing sugar. Louisiana producing food to feed it. New Orleans controlling the flow of goods across 2 continents. France, permanently planted in the heart of North America. A superpower with a stranglehold on the Western world. He had already quietly negotiated to get Louisiana back from Spain. He had sent one of his best generals across the Atlantic. He was months away from making this dream a reality. Everything was in place. Except for one island. One tiny, inconvenient, catastrophic island. The island was called Saint-Domingue. Today we call it Haiti. In 1800, it was the most profitable colony on Earth. It produced more sugar and coffee than anywhere else in the world. It made France rich beyond calculation. And it ran entirely on enslaved people. Then something happened that no empire in history had ever survived. The enslaved population rose up. Not a small rebellion. Not something that could be crushed in a few weeks. A full revolution. Organized, brutal, and unstoppable, Napoleon sent his brother-in-law, General Leclerc, with over 40,000 soldiers, one of the largest military forces France had ever assembled. They expected to crush the rebellion in months. Instead, they walked into a nightmare. Yellow fever swept through the army. Then malaria, then dysentery. Soldiers died faster than they could be replaced. General Leclerc himself died. 2/3 of the entire force dead. Not from battle, from disease. 50,000 French soldiers, sent to protect Napoleon's American dream, buried in Caribbean soil. And suddenly, the entire logic of Louisiana collapsed. Without Haiti to supply and support it, Louisiana was just an enormous, indefensible piece of land sitting between British Canada and an increasingly ambitious United States. Then Britain started threatening war again. Napoleon sat with his generals in Paris and faced the coldest possible calculation. Keep Louisiana. Watch Britain take it for free. Or sell it now to America. And use that money to fund the war in Europe. He had built his American empire in his mind. He had planned it for years. And he walked away from it. In a single meeting. He didn't know it yet, but in that moment, Napoleon had just made America's rise possible. He had handed over the land that would feed a nation, fuel a superpower, and eventually help end the very wars he was about to start. He gave it away for $15 million. President Thomas Jefferson had one goal. Just one. Buy New Orleans. Not Louisiana, not the frontier, not the continent. Just New Orleans. He sent 2 diplomats to Paris with around $10 million and very specific instructions. Get the port. Come home. On April 11th, 1803, those diplomats sat down with the French Foreign Minister Talleyrand. And Talleyrand looked at them and asked a question that changed American history forever. What if, instead of New Orleans, you bought all of Louisiana? The Americans thought something had been lost in translation. All of it? All of it. The price? $15 million for 828,000 square miles. That works out to roughly 3 cents per acre. 3 cents. For land that would eventually become 15 states. Land containing the Mississippi River, the Missouri River, the Great Plains, the Rocky Mountains. Land that would feed a nation for centuries. 3 cents per acre. Let that land in for a second. Today, that same territory contains more than 70 million people. Thousands of cities, millions of farms, trillions of dollars in economic activity every single year. The breadbasket of the entire world. The agricultural heart of the most powerful economy in history. The land that feeds hundreds of millions of people across 6 continents. America bought all of it for 3 cents an acre. The diplomats sat in that room and felt the ground shifting beneath them. They had no authority to say yes. They had no way to contact Jefferson in time. Napoleon could change his mind by tomorrow morning. So they made a decision that almost no diplomat in history has ever made. They said yes, without permission, without authorization, without even being entirely sure it was legal. They shook hands on the greatest land deal in human history and hoped their president would forgive them. Back in Washington, Thomas Jefferson received the news, and he felt 2 things simultaneously. Pure, overwhelming joy and a deep, nauseating discomfort. Because Thomas Jefferson had spent his entire political career arguing one thing. The Constitution meant what it said. The federal government had limited powers. If something wasn't explicitly written in that document, the government couldn't do it. Buying foreign territory? Not in the Constitution. Jefferson knew this, his advisors knew this, his political enemies knew this too. He consulted legal scholars. He drafted a constitutional amendment. He argued with himself for weeks. And then he did it anyway. The man who believed most deeply in the limits of government power signed the most expansive use of government power in American history. History called it the Louisiana Purchase. Nobody knew what America had actually bought. There were no accurate maps, no surveys, no census. The United States had just purchased a mystery the size of a continent. What happened next reshaped the world. Lewis and Clark crossed thousands of miles, mapped rivers, discovered wildlife, and encountered hundreds of indigenous nations already living across the land. The Louisiana Purchase created enormous opportunity for settlers, but it also accelerated the displacement of indigenous peoples. History doesn't let us separate those two stories. 15 states eventually emerged from this single purchase. America transformed from a small coastal republic into a continental power. And here's what I want you to remember. This entire thing almost didn't happen. One revolution, and one epidemic, one diplomatic gamble, one exhausted emperor, one signature. Sometimes the future isn't decided by the people who win. It's decided by the people who choose to walk away.